Hello, everyone, and welcome to Data World. We are very excited to have you here. We are coming to you live from our basement here at Anodot, and we're even more excited to be launching with you our new video content platform called Data Academy, which houses a lot of content, a lot of videos about all things data. So feel free to go in and have a peruse around. It's kind of, think Netflix style, but with data. I will pop the link in the chat during the session. So before we begin today, I just want to share a couple of housekeeping items. One is that the chat is fully free and open for all of you for questions throughout the session, throughout the hour. So feel free to chat away, to ask whatever you want to ask, to comment. You also have at the bottom of your screen, there's a control with a raise hand. So if you want to actually speak to the speakers or have a specific question for one of the speakers, feel free to raise your hand and we can unmute you and we can open your microphone. The second thing is that we also have a raffle going on. So just your participation in the session today will enter you into that raffle, and we'll be announcing the winner via email over the coming week. So without further ado, I'm very excited to see you all here and to invite our esteemed host, Shounit Lax-Swisa, who is the CEO of Company Vista, to take it away. So go for it, Shounit. Stage is all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Pnina. Thank you very much. First, I'll start with the answer to the quiz. So, what was the first telecommunication company? And I can see that many people were actually right because Bell was the first telecommunication company, and we have 63% that answered this. The other 31% answered AT&T, which makes a lot of sense. I think I would make the same mistake. So I'm very happy, and thank you everyone for joining us for our live from the basement panel discussion. And I think that we live in a very fascinating era. Some will call it the fourth industry revolution, and some will call it the digital transformation. But bottom line is that we see many new cutting edge technologies pushing the market forward and creating great and very interesting opportunities and use cases. AI and machine learning is one of those technologies, and being many years in the telecom industry, I can say that I think at least for the last 5 years, people are talking about AI and machine learning. I heard many use cases when it comes to AI and machine learning: fraud, security, revenue assurance, billing, marketing, and many others. But I think that the main challenge in the past few years was to actually present real case studies of how it's being used and mainly how it can contribute to the business. And today we are going to discuss one of those use cases, but with a real life example. And what we will discuss is the use of AI and machine learning in network monitoring, which I think it's a very, very interesting use case. And we will discuss it together with Erwin Halmans from T-Mobile Netherlands, and with Ira Cohen from Anodot. Both of them will discuss with me how AI and machine learning can be used for monitoring the networks, the telecom networks today, and also looking at the future when 5G and Open RAN and other new technologies, how this can be used. So welcome, and thank you very much for being with me, Ira and Erwin. So let's start.
Thank you, Shounit.
Thank you very much.
So the first question I would like to ask you is, and this is for you, Erwin, is how do you see network monitoring today, and what are the main challenges as you experience them in T-Mobile and in your day-to-day?
Shounit, thanks for the introduction. Network monitoring in T-Mobile Netherlands, the part that I'm responsible for is the fixed network of T-Mobile, so maybe get that one on the table straight away. Our fixed network involves all the cables in the ground, all the network devices that enable connectivity, and it also provides the backbone for the mobile network of T-Mobile Netherlands. So the biggest challenge for us in monitoring our network is that we have a lot of legacy networks. The architecture is very scattered, the landscape is very scattered, and that means that we also have a big variety of monitoring tools throughout the organization to monitor the status and the performance of our network. So getting a good oversight of the overall performance of our network and the stability of the network is very difficult to obtain. And it also means that it's difficult to find support whenever we face smaller or bigger issues in our network. So I think that's the biggest challenge that we have currently.
How many devices do you monitor approximately? How many things do you need to monitor in a network like the T-Mobile network in the Netherlands, which is not the biggest country in Europe?
No, correct. It's not. It's well, what we are monitoring currently within our network is around 8,000 network devices, which are involved only for our core network. So the transportation network, that we transport high volumes of data. And then if you look at the access network, so moving closer to the customer, both business and consumer customers, that will add up to the tens of thousands. I think we are close to 80 or 90,000 network devices, individual network devices that we need to keep track of.
Would you agree if I would say that I think the complexity of monitoring a telecom network today is the combination between the number of devices, the different technologies, the different vendors that provide the technologies, probably Huawei, Nokia, Ericsson, and many others, together with, I would say, an increasing demands from customers to more advanced services like the enterprise customers, for example?
Yeah, I think one of the problems that we are facing is that we don't have the flexibility that we would like to have in changing or expanding our network. The demand from our customers are increasingly agile, if you want. They demand flexibility from us. They demand speed in getting new connectivity and getting new connections. But they also demand fast increase in network capacity. And fortunately, the strategy for T-Mobile has always been keep at least enough capacity available for the demand forecast that we foresee. And until now, that works out pretty well. But I think we lack flexibility in expanding network capacity. I think a lot of telecom operators, mainly fixed network operators, will face the same challenge.
Yeah, I agree. So I think that's a great introduction to the next questions that I would like to ask you, Ira. When we're looking at AI and machine learning, do you see, based on your vast experience working with this technology for the past many years, I would say, can you see that this technology can be used for network monitoring in telecom?
So the short answer is yes. I think that everything that Erwin described in terms of how it's being monitored today is really prime for using machine learning technologies on it. I think there are lots of reasons, and we'll probably get into them in the next few minutes. But I would say the biggest reason is the notion of scale. With 90,000 network devices, each one may be outputting multiple sensor data. And this is just the devices. I'm sure there are other types of, I'm not sure. I know that there are other types of things you need to monitor around the services that are running, and there could be other components in your data center as well. So the complexity is very high, and the question is, how do you deal with that with regular monitoring today? And we've seen this switch also happening in the data center world, and certainly in the business world, where more and more things are being measured and decisions have to be made at a much faster pace. And I think the telco world has always been at the edge of that, in terms of needing to react really quickly. Um, so machine learning provides the ability to scale out and still be able to see everything that's happening, without hiring now an army of people that would need to sit in front of screens looking at graphs, because that's really the brute force approach has been the kind of the way the industry went in terms of solving it when you do need fast resolution. But I've heard, and I don't know, Erwin, if you've had cases like that, but I've heard from various telcos that a lot of times, even though they monitor everything and they do have a knock with a lot of people sitting and trying to find the problems as quickly as possible, sometimes you actually hear about the problems from your customers through tools like a down detector. I don't know if something that you experienced ever, because down detector basically measures the complaints from customers on social networks and Twitter and all sorts of places about a company's service. And if you detect it from them, it means that you missed out on the problem on your monitoring. I don't know if that's something that happens to you guys sometimes. I don't know if you can comment about it, but I've heard it from various sources that sometimes things are being missed and down detector finds it.
Yeah, I wish I could deny this, Ira, but
you're not confirming nor denying. Okay,
Yeah.
I think we understand
anything
that.
I can say I say can be used. No, but I mean, down detector is indeed one of the tools that we use to monitor a certain part of our network, and I say this with a bit of shame on, I can say it with a blush on my face, because that means that you have parts of your monitoring of your own network. You're not up to speed, and so we're trying to fix that currently. We've taken some measures to make down detector not needed anymore.
Yep.
But it is one of the crucial tools in a certain part of our network, and it shouldn't be. So
I don't think you are the only ones. I don't think you are the only company out there that's using it for that. And and I think this is where, if back to that question of AI ML, with machine learning, at least the promise is, and we do see it happening in reality as well. The promise is that you're covered 100% on all the data that you're collecting. So a lot of monitoring systems collect all the data, but to analyze the data requires another step. And machine learning's promise is the ability to analyze a vast amount of data accurately at scale. In real time, of course.
I think what you mentioned there, if you put enough people in place to monitor your network, if you can set up a war room, but there is a limit to the number of skilled people that you can hire and attract, and that you can keep in your organization. With the number of devices increasing, it becomes impossible to monitor your network manually. Even though you have skilled people, it becomes impossible. So you need to look for other solutions.
I think you're both touching very important trends that we see in telco for the past few years, and looking to the future, I think they will become even stronger. And the first one is customer experience, which is a nice word. Everyone are talking about it, but I think that what is the interesting part is that even today, during the COVID-19, customer experience becomes one of the biggest area of focus for telco operators. There's a big competition out there. in telecom, over the top, and we see it from, you know, from different direction. And the customer experience, which is connected, the customer experience, which is connected directly to the SLA, or the quality of service that the customer gets, how fast we are able to improve his experience, is a very, very important area of focus. The other two are automation. I think that managing, and this is connected to customer experience and also to the, I think, to the increase of new technologies, customers, devices, and others. But I think automation is an area of focus for many operators, and this is something that AI and machine learning can, I think, supports in a very nice way. And the last thing is the holistic view. A telecom network today provides, or telecom operator today provides, not only, I would say, voice minutes, as it used to be in the past. There is voice and data and SMS, and on top of data, there are many other services, and many telco operators also provides other services like streaming and TV, even banking, and a few others. All of them are based on the telco network. And I think that the holistic view, the ability to see not in silos, but to understand end to end the network situation, I think those trends are being supported by the AI and machine learning, and makes this technology so appealing, I think, for telecom. So maybe this is a good time to move to the next question. Sorry. First, we have the pop quiz before we move, because it is directly connected. So the question is, how many AI projects progress beyond experimental stage? And you have 30 minutes to answer
30
this
seconds,
question.
I think. Right?
30 seconds. Sorry, not minutes. Sorry. Yes.
So while this is going on, Erwin, I saw that there was a question about using static thresholds for the monitoring, which I guess, you know, I was mentioning sitting people in front of screens. Of course, the static threshold alerting and some kind of simple statistic-based alerting has been around for many years. Why is that failing?
Yes. Yeah. Well, like I mentioned in the first question, when about the challenges, we have so many different monitoring systems that it is very difficult to keep track of every individual component. And when you rely on static thresholds, the only thing you can do is react. And we don't want to react. We want to be proactive. We want to detect issues before they happen. So static thresholds, yes, they are very important. They usually generate alarms. Then people in our operations center start running, and it's all hands on deck. But I think static thresholds is a basic necessity, but there are certain behaviors in your network that you want to detect, because the behavior of a network device, or a number of network devices combined, will give you so much insight into what is going to happen, what is going to fail at what moment. If you learn from these events, and you can do that through AI, then you can detect issues in your network way before they will happen. And the biggest benefit, I think, in AI is that you can foresee the issue before it happens.
Or
so
when
yes,
it's very
static
small,
thresholds, definitely. But yes, yeah.
So
right.
can you see the results? It's
Yes.
very interesting.
Yeah.
We have actually the same result, both of them on the first. The first one is 12% and 23%. So let's see what is the answer. And the answer is 12%, which is still a very low number. And I think the question, Erwin, to you, and then I'll be happy, Ira, if you can add from your point of view. what are the main challenges for implementing AI? I think you have a real experience from such a project, and I'll be happy if you can share with us.
Yeah. Yeah, I was curious about this number because, like most projects that you want to reach the implementation phase, obviously you want the application of AI to reach an implementation phase as well. And one of the things, there are many challenges, but one of the things that is for us proves quite challenging is getting the application of AI implemented in the business itself. So our project team, we rely on it, we trust it, we see the value. Most of our stakeholders around us see the value, but then you need to implement it on within the business. And for us, the business means our network operations center. One of the challenges that we found and that we tackled, that we are tackling at the moment, is that you need to make sure that the application of AI becomes part of their daily work. It should not be something new or scary. It should not be something that people become afraid of, that they fear for their jobs, because we will always be needing the network engineers. But you need to make sure that it becomes part of their business as usual, their daily work. And the way we found that to be successful is through implementing AI via one of the traditional platforms, one of the monitoring network monitoring platforms called Netcool for the network people out there. I think it's a very familiar name. But if you make it part of their daily work, that becomes easier for people to accept. Ira, interrupt me whenever you feel like it, because I will rattle on, because there are many more challenges. I think one of the big challenges that we are facing still is how to obtain, to extract data from all these various devices and transform them into the same format, so that that we have a uniform set of data that we can analyze. And don't underestimate the amount of work and energy that goes into this, because if you don't, then you are set up for failure.
So Erwin, we have a question coming from Benjamin, and the question is, how do you manage this change process? Is there reluctant to use AI rather than personal experience? Which is a great question, right? It's exactly the situation.
Yeah, it is exactly the situation. Yeah, within our organization, it's. I think we have a limited user group. We have around 15 to 20 people using the solution that we are implementing, that means that we as a project team, we are 6 people in the project team, and that means that we know almost all our stakeholders, all our end users. We know them face and name, and that means that you can interact directly with them and talk to them frequently about what the solution will deliver to them and what it means for their daily work. And if you show them the way it will work, then in many cases you will find that there is a response like, oh, okay, so this is what it's going to be, this is what it's going to look like, and this is what it means for me, for my job, and this is what it means for the way of working. It speeds up certain things. It will create insights that they haven't had before. They can solve problems before they happen. Basically, people, when they see the solution and start working with it, they slowly become accustomed to it, and they see the value of it. So, but I think the direct interaction with almost every stakeholder in our project, in our end user group, is one of the more important things that you can do to communicate with them. is one of the more important things that you can do to get the solution accepted.
So basically, you're saying dropping something from above and expecting the organization to move towards that won't. I mean,
No,
like mandating
no,
or forcing.
no.
It doesn't really work.
No. I've
Surprisingly.
I've worked in various industries outside telco, but within telco and especially within technical departments where you have specialists with tremendous amounts of knowledge and expertise. Maybe I don't want to offend anyone, but these people are really stubborn. They have a lot of knowledge, they know a lot, and if you come in there and tell them how the world is going to change, you will run into a lot of resistance and a lot of friction. So don't tell them what to do, how to do it. You need to explain the benefits, not only for our customers, but particularly for the people who are using the solution when you implement it, and have good interaction with them.
Yeah. So the things that I've seen throughout the years. So I've been working on machine learning, I guess, since my PhD, and in the industry since already 2003, trying to push various machine learning capabilities into products. And I think one of the cultural resistance is definitely one that always it's probably the most underlooked and the hardest to overcome. Well, it's not hard to
Yeah,
overcome if you know that you have to overcome it and have to, make the time, like you said, deal with the right stakeholders. Know that people are not there just they're not resisting because they don't want this. They're resisting because they have expertise, and you need to prove to them that this will improve their life.
yes,
Um, so you have to make sure whatever your solution you're building shows it to them, and not just
yeah,
assume that they're going to cower to it and be it. There are other things that I've seen throughout the years that I think also influence that huge number of failures. Just 12% succeed. That means 88% fail. Um, so uh, and there are ones that happen even before I think the cultural resistance comes more at the end when you already have something working. But even before, when
yeah,
you're trying to develop it, um, I've seen a lot of things fail for I guess three other main reasons. One is um, they're trying to solve a problem that should not be solved with machine learning at all. I think
yeah,
too often we see because of the buzzword of AI and machine learning, trying to you know trying to fit the hammer to every nail that you see, even though it's not even a nail. And there are ways to, and I think there are ways to evaluate whether it's a good fit or not. As a data scientist, I always say that if you can solve a problem without machine learning, you should solve it without machine learning, because machine learning introduces a lot of uncertainties
yeah,
and potential inaccuracy, and it needs
yeah,
to be fueled by data. So you know anything that relies on data and not deterministic, then it might fail. If you have a better way of
yeah.
solving it, solve it with a better way, a deterministic way. And a lot of
Okay.
times I've seen projects start without thinking about whether it's a good fit or not. Then the second thing is, a lot of times you see projects start with no clear success criteria, no clear
Yeah, yeah,
uh, requirements that will lead it to a success criteria. And then you have a data science team working on a lot of cool stuff, but then that cool stuff doesn't
yeah,
match the requirements, right? So you might have a requirement of real time, but maybe the data science team did not know that it's supposed to work in real time, and they created the best algorithm in the world, but it works at a day of delay, and then it's not helpful, and then
yeah.
it gets canned. And by the time they know the requirement, they're already spent, I don't know, 3 6 months of work, and nobody knows what's happening. So that I see a lot of things falling on that, and I think the industry is maturing in a lot of places in defining those requirements. But again, it comes from the rush of coolness, right? Trying to
Yeah.
implement something cool and not thinking it through in terms of the requirements. And the other third, even before cultural, the third one before cultural resistance is that a lot of times I've seen companies trying to solve, making it too big and too complex, making the project so huge that trying to solve a lot of problems with one tool or one, at one go, and trying to create a huge agenda around ML, trying to fit too many things into it. And
Yeah.
when you spread thin, when you spread your team thin, then you might not get anything done. So I think that my advice to anybody doing it is always pick the first problem. Even if you have a big agenda, pick the first problem, solve it all the way, and then move to the second one and third one. It will be easier also to solve it afterwards. And I've seen too many cases where the agenda is so large and they try to work on everything at the same time with one big tool, and then you run into the problems with collecting the data from multiple silos, and then you spend months just trying to create data pipelines even before the machine learning does anything. And then patience runs out with executives, and budget runs out on the project, and then it gets canceled.
I think, Ira, you touch upon quite a few items that we experienced as well. Starting with the last one, getting sponsorship from people high enough in your organization is so important. If you don't have a big business executive supporting the initiative, you might as well stop, or might as well not start at all. And on the other hand, you need to have a goal that is feasible. So yes, it's really nice to have this dot on the horizon, so to say, to have a vision that you are trying to achieve in the long term. For instance, for us, that dot on the horizon, that was the Autonomous Network Operations Center, or zero-staffed NOC, or dark NOC, or whatever term you want to give it. We want to shut off the light in our network operations center. So send all the people away and have all these autonomous processes run, automated processes run, monitoring, fine-tuning, and preventing issues from happening. So a self-analyzing and a self-healing network. That was, or that still is, the dot on the horizon. But that's something that you cannot achieve in a single project, or not even in a program. So what we did is find out what was the single problem causing the largest amount of issues in our network for our customers. Focus on that, create the project around one problem, and work towards a solution for that. And then you get one step, a small step, even though it costs you a lot of time and money, you become one step closer to reaching your vision. It's dot on the horizon. On the other hand, once you succeed in that first step, then you also see that the enthusiasm in the organization increases, and people start coming to you and your team with all kinds of problems that they want to have solved. And then it's exactly what you say. Make sure that you solve it with the right tools, that there is a good fit for AI. And what we tend to do is first ask a data scientist to work out whether or not AI is a suitable solution for this problem. And if he can come up with a prototype for a solution, then we start looking around if we need to build out this solution and implement it, or if we can find a solution in the market, a platform in the market that supports this solution. And then we move away from custom build. So you're absolutely right.
I think
I can talk on and on. So
yeah, we can talk a lot about this. I think this is one of the main things that caused these failures. And you're right. I mean, doing it, putting that dot on the horizon. That is obviously this is the.
Yeah, I think I would add one point that I think you touched it, but I do want to emphasize it as I think this is how to connect it to the executives or to get the sponsorship in the company. And this is finding a business value to the use case. So connect the actual AI use case into either an ROI or something that creates real dollar value to the company. It can be in reduction or in on increased revenue or improving processes. But I found out in my past working on AI project is that when you don't have a clear connection to the value, this is where it will be harder to get sponsorship internally in the company.
I dropped off.
Yeah.
My network somehow disappeared on me. Maybe it's a good fit. We could.
Okay. So let's move to the next question because we are almost out of time. I think we discussed today's situation, but it will be interesting to pick up your brain and get your point of view of what would be the future of telecom. I'm mainly referring to, I would say, to the technology side, how networks will look like in the next 2 to 5 years, and how you think it will impact the way we monitor and manage telecom networks. So Erwin, maybe we should start with you.
Yeah, sure. Looking at the technology landscape for telcos, the trends are obvious. They're open doors that I'm kicking in. But networks will become more software oriented. They will become more flexible, become more dynamic. But it also means that with that flexibility, you will add complexity to your application landscape. You think you will solve the technical architecture of your network by reducing the number of individual devices, but on the other hand, you will add complexity to your software landscape. There will be a shift in monitoring on that side. But on the other hand, we are already rolling out 5G. We have it operational, and until now, the increase of number of network devices is limited. But you will see it explode once we will start using 5G for IoT applications, and then it will become absolutely impossible to maintain your network manually. So what the telco industry will be evolving towards is much more towards a network automation landscape, where tools are integrated. And Shounit, you mentioned the holistic view of your network, your connections, your services, and that is something I think that we will see in the next 2 to 5 years. That holistic view will become a reality, because I'm convinced that we are not the only telco operator which has that particular problem. The individual layers of monitoring, well, we have the basics covered, but in a holistic view, explaining to a customer or even preventing issues before a customer complains, but looking at the level of the quality of service, looking at the network connectivity, and looking at the network device statuses, we cannot do that all in once. And I think you'll see that the solutions, the automation solutions, will enable us to get that holistic view easier. Or we don't have it at all currently, but that holistic view, I think, is one of the things that we will see in the next 2 to 5 years.
Do we expect also, Erwin, more push to even faster, let's say, faster, more real-time or even live type of monitoring? because I'm thinking
Yeah.
about devices like cars, right? So cars will
Yeah.
be, they're already connected to the network, and you know, if you have a Tesla, you get updates over the air. And I think we
Yeah.
saw they had a glitch a few weeks ago where a lot of Tesla owners could not get into their cars because some central thing. It wasn't a network problem, but it was something on the Tesla side. But I can imagine that, you know, if you rely on getting into on the network to get into your car, um,
Yeah.
then you know, the quality of service becomes even more critical to
Crucial,
your
yeah.
life
Yeah.
than
Yeah. Yeah.
just a dropped call or a
Yeah.
slowness of watching YouTube. So
Yeah.
how does that come into play in somehow in the business model changes of the telco and also the quality assurance model of telcos in the next 2 to 5 years? Will that
Yeah.
change
It will
significantly?
definitely. It will definitely mean a big shift, particularly in quality assurance, network assurance, because what you see is that uh, network services have become something. What's the terminology for it? It's a necessity, like water and electricity.
Yeah. Commodity.
And if
Yep.
it's something which you can't do without anymore. If we don't have internet anymore, our society will break down. That's maybe a bit dramatic, but
Today it's not
imagine
that
that there's no
dramatic.
more.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. But well, imagine that we don't have any more network connectivity. The internet is one thing, but imagine that that all our networks are having a meltdown. I don't want to think about all the normal processes that don't function anymore because we rely on communication technology. But so it is so important today that the shift in quality assurance and network assurance will be towards this holistic view, having every corner of your network and every corner of your service platform knowing exactly what the status is of what's going on for almost each individual customer. For every individual consumer customer, that may be a little bit much, but particularly for all the business users, business customers, you need to know exactly what's going on in your network, on your interface level, and on the service level, particularly service level combined with network. Currently, we cannot explain to a business user why a certain service is not performing as well as it should. We agreed on a certain service level, and if that service is not performing well, we cannot immediately tell our customer this is where the problem is, and we are solving it right now. And we need to dive into so many different systems that well, it's sometimes it's difficult to explain to a customer. So integrating all these individual silos, I think that will be the thing that you will see in the next 2 to 5 years.
I think that what you touched and telco is taking us directly to the next question, which is, let's talk about COVID-19 and our lives at the past 9 to 10 months. I have to tell you that I spent the past few weeks reading telco operators' financial reports because all of them or many of them are publishing the financial reports. And I was curious. I'm spending many years in the telecom market, and I was curious to see how COVID-19 impacted the business of telco. And there was a very nice surprise when I read the reports, because the pictures that came out of many of them, and I was looking at all regions: AT&T, Vodafone, Tele2, T-Mobile, Deutsche Telekom, even in APAC, AIS Thailand, and PLDT Philippines. So I was really searching around the globe to see if there are also different trends. And the results were very interesting because I think that what came out of all those reports is that COVID-19 made a very clear, created a very clear picture that telco is crucial to our life, and the cellular network are very important to our day-to-day because our offices and classes and everything we used to do outside of our house is now being done when we are at home. And we are not only using our Wi-Fi network when we are at home. There are different use cases why we are using the mobile without the Wi-Fi. And this is, using Zoom and using WhatsApp and Facebook and emails and many other use cases, but also using voice. And one of the interesting part that I could find out from the financial reports is that voice is coming up again. Surprisingly, because we are not at the office anymore. We don't have our desk phone, our fixed line. So we are using our mobile. So it became very clear that telecom and mobile networks are crucial to our day-to-day, and that customer experience becoming even more crucial today. And because of the lockdown and the quarantines and, everyone around the world are staying home, there is a very nice decrease in churn because people are not moving from one mobile operator to another, which is a great opportunity to provide a good service and create some stickiness to the both consumer and enterprise customers using the telecom network. Once we will be hopefully going back to our regular life, we would stay with those cellular networks and not try to move to any. So I would be very curious to hear, Erwin, what did you see in T-Mobile Netherlands during this time of the COVID-19?
Well, Shounit, I should start with saying I don't look at the market trends or the subscriber numbers or things like that. I look at the operational side of our network. But there we see some trends as well. And fortunately, one of the trends that we've seen that yes, our network's capacity has increased, or network usage, I should say, has increased during the past months, both from a mobile and a fixed side, because our mobile network is connected to our fixed network, so we transport all the data ourselves. But what we've seen is that the number of customers has slightly increased, which from a commercial perspective is very good.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's due to COVID or to the increased marketing pressure, because we've added a lot of pressure to the market to challenge the number one and number two in the Netherlands, KPN and Vodafone Ziggo. But what we see from a network operations perspective is that the team had all hands on deck. We were on high alert, but we also saw that the network coped very well with the increase of the data volume. There were very few issues related to the increase of number of users and the number of data. And as to what you mentioned, the increase of voice versus data on mobile devices, I can totally relate to it, because you are at home. Most of our colleagues are working from home. All your friends, you don't see them very often. Your family. So what you want to do is pick up the phone more often, and have a conversation. Hopefully with video, but if not, then at least audio. And where you would send a WhatsApp message every now and again, now you pick up the phone. But again, from a network operations perspective, we've seen hardly any any challenges due to COVID.
Which is
So
great.
it's, for us, yeah, for us it was great. Yes, it was. We were put to the test, or our network was put to the test, and our operations team was put to the test. But fortunately, we did not have to run into action and solve any big problems.
And Erwin, I saw in other telco operators that besides having more volume of data flowing through the network, also there were changes in the traffic shapes or kind of the patterns of the traffic throughout the day, and also geographically distributed in a different way. Probably because people are working from home, people are working different hours than before. They're using a lot more video from home rather than office. If it's like in Israel, then I think probably only 20% of the people are going to an office since the beginning of the COVID. Did you see those kind of pattern changes as well in terms of the how the network is being utilized, even if you don't hit the capacity?
Yeah. I have to be honest, we did not look at it in such close detail. And maybe it's fortunate because when COVID started, we were at the beginning of our implementation of Anodot. And all the models needed to be trained with the data that we were providing. So if we would have taken a closer look, we would probably be thrown off course. Because we would see very unusual and shifting patterns. So, no, so the answer is no. We didn't see it. We didn't look at it. And if you don't look at it, you don't find it.
Right. And it didn't impact. So it sounds like it didn't impact because the network had enough capacity, so it didn't matter.
No, exactly. Yeah. The network usage went up, yes, and the capacity, fortunately, we were able to reroute some traffic here and there, but the network capacity was sufficient to cope with the increased demand.
Right.
So we are going to wrap up the session, but before that, I would like to invite the people that are connected to and were listening to us, if there are any questions that they would like to ask us about network monitoring, AI and machine learning, the challenges of the project, or anything else. So I invite you, everyone, to ask if there are any questions. And let me see. Okay, I can't see any question yet. So I think maybe it's a good time to get your, I would say, summary statement of how do you see, the future from now on. Okay, hold on. There is a question. How difficult it is to transition from a conventional monitoring system to an AI-based monitoring system? This is the question that we have from Katrik. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly.
I think Erwin is the one that can answer that. I mean, to me, it always looks easy, but I don't think it's that easy.
Ira, I would like to invite you a few months and come and join me.
I have to come.
But I think, we agreed that we would meet in person as soon as the COVID is gone, or at least manageable.
Or at least under control.
Under control, yeah. But I think the transition from conventional monitoring to AI-based monitoring is a gradual process. You cannot do that in a big bang scenario. Technically, it's impossible. There are too many stability factors that you need to consider, continuity factors. So you need to do this gradually, and you need to take this use case by use case, and maybe even device type by device type. In our situation, you see there is a tremendous. We are a tremendously siloed organization, and that means that if you want to make changes to monitoring processes throughout a network chain, that will be so immensely complex, and you will need so many stakeholders on board that's to me it sounds like a nightmare. So we are working within one silo, trying to improve one individual problem at a time, and see how we can maybe touch 1, 2, or 3 monitoring systems that we will either enhance or make obsolete. But touching, I think we have over 40 different monitoring systems. Trying to work through that chain of monitoring solutions is I suggest don't try it. Kids, don't try this at home. That's basically the message.
Okay, we have a last question, which, as we almost don't have time, let's try to answer it in very shortly. The question is from Elon Bar, and he's asking if AI ops, which is a new trend in the Silicon Valley vendor, do we see it as a compelling trend to what we are discussing in this discussion?
So I'm sorry that I dropped out. My network is having a lot of issues.
It's because you're not using a cellular modem. That's why, because you're using Wi-Fi.
I actually now switched to my phone. I switched to my phone. I'm
it's
doing
better.
tethering from my phone, and it's better. Very ironic that this is the session about that. And so the AI ops, I think, you know, what Erwin mentioned about autonomous networks. Basically, if you look at AI ops and the vision of AI ops, even outside of network, that's the vision of AI ops. The idea is to really make things autonomous, and have a self-healing system that fixes itself as much as possible. And we have examples of that in the world in other domains, completely other domains. Now, of course, the challenge is how do you create a roadmap to reach it? I think right now, if you look at all the vendors, you see vendors solving things along that path towards it. And some vendors are looking at the automation at the end, but they need the inputs from the beginning. And some vendors are looking at the beginning, and then some vendors are in the middle. But there is a whole path of how you can achieve it, and probably not a single path, not a single way of doing it. I do believe strongly that machine learning is the right path to achieve it, especially in a telco domain where technologies keep changing every few years. So it's very hard to create an expert-based system that will generate all the rules that could do the automation, because by the time you're done with that task, the technology changed and you need to redo it again and again. And machine learning can do that relearning and adaptiveness by itself. That's why I do believe that AI ops does need to rely on AI and machine learning, specifically leveraging data. Because AI is a big word. Expert systems are also part of AI, but I don't believe expert systems that are manually configured can solve the problem. They haven't been able to do it for the past 30 years in other domains. There is no reason to believe that in this dynamic domain, where things keep changing, it could work either. So you need data and learning from data to solve it. What do you think, Erwin?
So
that's my summary.
We are out of time, so we have like short answer, Erwin. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, Ira, I totally agree on the AI ops part, and one of the things that will become a big challenge for AI ops, and I think for AI in general in telcos, is the granularity of the data. And as Elon mentions, the network devices that are being brought out into the market currently, they deliver telemetry, model-based telemetry capabilities. And if you dive into that topic, well, I did for a few weeks, and I got scared. I literally got scared. If you look at the telemetry models that current telco vendors are bringing out onto the market, that will become one one big challenge: how to capture such rich amount of data, and it will become essential, crucial to think about what do you want to monitor in your or on your device. What do you want to know about your device? Because AI ops, you want to make it as smart as possible, and you can throw all the data that this machine produces. You can throw all this data into a big data platform, and then it becomes a big data swamp because you don't know what to do with it anymore. So I think we really need to think carefully in the future about what data do we want to analyze that is available to us, because the availability of the data is overwhelming. It's becoming overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I would like to thank you very much, Erwin and Ira. I learned a lot, and it was very insightful. So thank you very much, and hopefully we will meet soon for another talk.
And hopefully in person somewhere.
Yeah,
So we can
Yes,
talk over,
in the Netherlands.
Yes.
Yes,
All right.
definitely.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks
Thank
very
you
much.
Thank you very
much.
much. Have
Thanks,
a great
Ira.
day.
Thanks, Shounit.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.